How Manchester United did the impossible against Lyon. Today, we're going to be diving into the stats, the tactics, and the analysis of one of Man United's greatest ever comebacks in their history of the football club. We're talking Kobbie Mainoo, Harry Maguire up front. This game was absolutely bonkers. If you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video. But anyway, let's get this party started. So where do I start? Ruben Amorim's substitutions, Harry Maguire up front, Kobbie Mainoo being a brilliant short-space footballer. Maybe let's start with the first goal, because I think that was a very, very good start to the game for Manchester United and a real Ruben Amorim goal. These types of goals you'd see at Sporting over and over again. So Manchester United went into the game in Ruben Amorim's shape, the 3-4-3 or the 3-4-2-1. And I think one of the interesting sides with the Lyon setup is they went with a diamond in midfield to try and match Manchester United in that central zone. They wanted to stop the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Ugarte and Alejandro Garnacho. And we can clearly see each of those players were picked up by Rudy Garcia's side. Viv2 on Garnacho, Fernandes getting picked up by Paul, the defensive midfielder, Tolisso jumping onto Casemiro, and Thiago Almada, who I was very, very impressed with at Old Trafford, sitting on Manu Ugarte. The idea for Lyon was to block that centre space and really condense the game. But in terms of the natural tactical advantages you do get from a three at the back system versus a diamond is at wing back. The big problem with playing a back four is not only do you create massive space in the channels for either the striker or the number 10s to attack, but also you got a bit of a problem. Do you jump and follow the wing backs high, creating that space, or just sit deep and allow them to have the ball and dominate possession? In the opening goal is a really good way where we can look at this example. So let's dive into the analysis right now. So we pick up the play with Harry Maguire in possession of the football in the middle of the back three. Yes, at this point he was playing as a centre-back, not as a centre-forward. So as Manchester United are building, you can see this Lyon shape we spoke about. We can see Almada on Ugarte, we can see Tolisso about to press Casemiro, Paul's picking up Bruno Fernandes, and of course bottom of a shot is Viv2 picking up Garnacho. United do really well in this moment in my opinion. They keep possession nice and narrow, they move it quickly in midfield, Casemiro to Bruno, back to the wide position, and it's starting to, Man United are starting to look like they're getting a little bit of steam. This for me is a real kind of Amorim goal. What we see now is the space that's going to get created. As Diogo Dalot receives the ball, you can see the fullback Tagliafico jump on him into a deep area. This consequently creates that space we mentioned before. If we go back to the tactics board, the space that we're really talking about, as Tagliafico is jumping, there's humongous space in behind him. Think about this as Kevin De Bruyne for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's side stretch the width of the pitch with wingers. Kevin De Bruyne always makes those underlapping runs. And this is why it's good, because that is the type of thing that we saw time and time again at Sporting Club de Portugal. With Diogo Dalot in that wide area, we can start to see that space open up. The ball gets played back to Mazraoui. Bruno Fernandes once again pulls wide, draws the defensive midfielder, and then spins in behind him. This is a great move from Bruno Fernandes. You can see Tagliafico has been pulled out of position. The space is there for Fernandes to get in behind the defense. But now I want you to watch Garnacho. Not only has Bruno Fernandes twisted his marker and created space in behind the defense, but look at the movement. Viv2 gets absolutely done by this little bit of movement from Garnacho. He deserves a lot of credit with this first touch. This first touch is absolutely world class, taking both the defender and Viv2 out of the game. The cutback's fantastic. Ugarte with a simple finish. At this moment, you're thinking Manchester United are rocking. Man United are playing some great football. They score another goal from a direct ball from the defense again, over the top for a wing back. Again, you're looking at utilizing those wing backs against the fullbacks in a number of areas. First goal was drawing them in. The second goal was very much running them the other way with Diogo Dalot. Manchester United in full control. Tactically looking great, looking very calm, looking like they can win this game simply 3 or 4 goals to nil. And I think the interesting part now, I want to look at one man. Alejandro Garnacho. He's a player that I really like. Openly, I think he's a good footballer. He's young. He's super talented. The big thing with Garnacho is that he can create these magic moments, and sometimes he doesn't make the right decision. But I think a lot of discourse has been questioned whether if he doesn't take this goal, he doesn't score in these moments, Man United go on to lose the game, or they go on to let Lyon back into the game. Yes, which is understandable. That is a fair point. But I think we'll look at those goals quickly that Man United conceded, and it's quite blatant that it is a team collective problem, that they just don't deal with that. And blaming someone like Alejandro Garnacho for literally creating a chance out of absolutely nothing, for me, is very, very poor analysis. And we as fans need to be a little bit better. We've got to remember that Garnacho is just 20 years old. I want to remember that Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United would have been really frustrating for a lot of fans. And he went on to be the best player in the world. And I'm not saying that Garnacho is going to do that. What I'm saying is he's 20 years old and the guy deserves support because he can do things like this. Like, this is fantastic. Man United sitting a little bit deep. I think there's a lot of different things and feelings that I had at Old Trafford in the game where, you know, United really needed to win this game. There's so much around this. The Champions League football next season is massive. Man United really need to win this. There needs to be improvement of players because at times Man United really sat off Lyon. And that's not what a Ruben Amorim team is. It's a team that should be making it uncomfortable for you to play. And sometimes United are so flat in the defensive phase as well as the offensive phase. But anyway, let's move this forward. Lyon moving the ball around. And Garnacho jumps in, intercepts the ball. So he's picked the ball up in his own defensive third. You've got to think about these things. Plays a little 1-2 inside, explodes on the outside of the defender and receives the ball back. A really good first touch. Back across the defender, takes him out, and now he's in the penalty area. There is no support with him. This isn't a time where his teammates are with him. He's that quick that he's away from his teammates. The only thing, in my opinion, he can do here, beat the defender, have a shot on goal. That's exactly what he does. Sells the defender perfectly, cuts back inside, and the finish is straight at the goalkeeper. Yes, that is the part that Garnacho needs to work on. But to even get from that point, it started in his defensive third where he has made the interception. He's run basically the full length of the pitch to get on the end of the ball, cuts back, and the finish is the only bit that lacks there. Give the guy a break. That's a brilliant move from a 20-year-old attacker. The interception, the break, the speed, the cut inside, fantastic. We need to support players like Garnacho. He's 20, similar to Leny Yoro, younger than 20, similar to Patrick Dorgu. The list goes on and on and on. We need to reframe our views on these players because that, quite frankly, is a brilliant bit of individual play. So Man United missed that chance. Yes, that is one moment. And we've got another moment here where United are on the attack again. Some good hold-up play from Højlund. The ball gets switched out to Alejandro Garnacho. He makes the wrong decision here. Goes for goal. And yes, he should be looking for the cross. But I think when you look at the overall team structure, like from Amorim's side, Dorgu is a little bit too deep here. I've got to remember, a young player, so we've got to give him that time to develop. He's just moved to the Premier League. So he should be, number one, higher up the pitch. He should be providing that overlap. He should be at the top of the arrow right now to create the 2v1 on the defender, which would allow Garnacho to simply play the ball on the outside and allow Dorgu to cross. Instead, goes on the outside. And at this point, if, for example, we go back and Dorgu was on the overlap, potentially you've got Højlund near post, Fernandes on the edge, Ugarte on the D. You've got loads of options for the cutback. Man United might score a goal. That is truly another Ruben Amorim goal. Of course, Garnacho makes the wrong decision, takes a shot on goal. But at the same time, the pass to Bruno Fernandes and Ugarte is probably crowded out. You've got 4 Lyon players there, shutting the ball down, shutting the angle of that pass. You know, you've probably got Garnacho's probably got a nutmeg, the guy that's coming towards him with a pass to find that. You look at Rasmus Højlund, he is not across the front post. That is something we mentioned previously with Højlund. He needs to get across the front post a little bit more. So the decision is wrong from Garnacho, but I'd also say his teammates in that move don't support him well at all. There's no passing option there at all, really, from that wide position. Again, but we've also got to look at this, and we can't blame an attacking player for literally crumbling from a set piece. We look at the set piece goal. Casemiro's headed clearance is very, very poor. Then he gets beat on the near post by Lacazette. Maguire's in no man's land, and Leny Yoro gets beaten on the back post. We take the second goal. The cross is not stopped. There's nobody defending the back post, and then Leny Yoro again switches off. What I like about Leny Yoro is he has massively improved since moving to Manchester United. One of the things that Rio Ferdinand speaks about is how he now uses his arm to get across defenders to slow them down. Being switched on in the penalty area is kind of another little thing that he needs to work on, but he's a student of the game and he will improve. Again, another young player. I don't blame him for those 2 goals conceded. It's a team collective thing that Man United really need to work on, because this is why you go from being 2-0 up to 4-2 down, and you've got to have some absolute magic from your manager to change the game. So anyway, let's talk about that magic, because this was one of the greatest moments at Old Trafford in my entire life. Let's get into that. So let's take a look at those tactical changes. At half-time, of course, Manchester United did have to introduce Luke Shaw at left-sided centre-back for Matt Terrell, with Leny Yoro moving to the right side. But let's go to those changes that won the game. Ruben Amorim went for super control in central midfield. Didn't have a centre forward on the bench. Again, Chido Obi had to be in the Europa League squad. If you look at the breakdown of Manchester United's defence, attack and midfield, you've got 2 strikers. You've got a load of defenders, a load of players that could play centre-back. They definitely needed to put Chido Obi in there. You know, going into the back end of the Europa League with just Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee is a massive administrative error. It's crazy. But anyway, let's get into these changes. Of course, the first kind of changes, we're looking at Manu Ugarte coming off, Christian Eriksen moving into a defensive midfield position. We're looking at Patrick Dorgu coming off, Harry Maguire playing left wing back. The big change in terms of the forward area, Garnacho coming off, Mason Mount moving into attacking midfield, and of course the big one, Kobbie Mainoo as a number 9. Ruben Amorim talks about Kobbie Mainoo in really good light in kind of these short spaces, areas of the pitch where you need good close control, good first touch, and you can make something happen. That's why Mainoo went through the middle. But in terms of what we saw as the half kind of grew on and built, is that United had to change. You know, they changed it a little bit. We saw kind of it almost being kind of a three-man midfield with Fernandes dropping in at times to try and create that overload. But United needed goals. They went 2 goals down for it to be Lyon 4, Man United 2, going into the second part of extra time. And here's where the glorious change happened. Here's where we saw the Ruben Amorim redemption arc start. Harry Maguire as the number 9. The tactics kind of moved a little bit in that moment, and it looked a little bit more like a 3-3-4 structure. Diogo Dalot moved into a right-sided centre-back position. Mason Mount moved to right wing-back. United had a midfield 3 of Casemiro, Fernandes and Christian Eriksen that had real licence to attack, to get in and around the penalty area, to get into the box, with the width, with, of course, big Harry Maguire up top to get onto crosses into the box. This allowed Man United to dominate. In the final 22 minutes of the match, United had 68% of possession. At times, Christian Eriksen was dropping in at centre-back to receive the ball, to play those long balls, but it was more chaotic. It allowed United to get balls into the box with someone they could hit in Harry Maguire. They were the changes, and Ruben Amorim deserves a lot of credit for what he tried. He tried loads of different things, first bringing all those midfielders on, then finally sticking Harry Maguire up front. And that came pretty clutch. But I do think we've got to talk about one man, and that is Uncle Miro. Yes, he didn't do well for the first goal. I thought he should have dealt with that a lot better. But he came alive. He won the penalty for Bruno Fernandes and then got 2 brilliant assists. So let's take a look at those assists right now. So here we are, nearly the 119th minute of the game. Man United 4 goals to 3 down. This is beautiful chaos created by the system and what Ruben Amorim did tactically. So we pick up the play with Onana in position. Bruno Fernandes is dropping on the ball. The other thing I didn't mention before, both of the outside centre-backs were so offensive in the back end of the game. Luke Shaw's basically playing as a left fullback in this move. So Fernandes has picked the ball up. We can see the back line is getting tested. Amas, Shaw, Kobbie Mainoo in those attacking positions, with Christian Eriksen basically as an auxiliary centre-back in this moment. Fernandes carries a bit forward. Good run off the ball from Mainoo, who again is showing real promise as an attacking midfielder or as a striker under Ruben Amorim. I think that's going to be his position going forward. It's kind of one of these attackers. I feel like he's got that ability in these areas. But look at Casemiro in this move. The space is created. Bruno Fernandes carries inside. Obviously, Mainoo's dragged the defence one way. Casemiro drops off, and this little flick over the top is brilliant from Casemiro. But then it drops to Kobbie Mainoo, and that ability in these short spaces is just simply sublime. The first touch is great, the second inside, and the finish is brilliant. This was probably the biggest explosion at Old Trafford I've ever seen in terms of noise. It was mental. We were celebrating for about 3 minutes. My voice is gone because of that fact. It went absolutely off. And this was a brilliant goal created by the chaos of Ruben Amorim's changes. We could see Harry Maguire in the penalty area, playing as a centre forward. This is absolutely crazy, but a brilliant goal that got United back into the game. 4 goals all. And at that point, you're thinking, penalties. But this is the Europa League, the greatest tournament in the world. And this next goal is another brilliant bit of play from Casemiro. So Manchester United have kicked off. Lyon have punted the ball back and they're recycling possession. Lenny Yoro back to, of course, Andre Onana. At this instance, Man United need to get the ball high. They need to get the ball into the box. You could tell that Lyon's heads had absolutely fallen off at this moment. You could feel it in the ground. The penalty was one hit, but that equaliser, you could just feel Lyon were dead. Man United had 5 minutes to score 1 goal, and they basically did it straight away. Shaw carrying out into that area. Again, I thought his impact was decent in the game. Need to get more minutes in his legs. Need to see whether he's capable of playing for Man United next season. But in this situation, and what I love about Casemiro is he's arguably playing as an attacking midfielder here. We speak about that midfield shape before. Both of the central midfielders, Bruno Fernandes, just deep of shot. Casemiro also super high, supporting the 2 centre forwards. And this little bit of space that he picks up in a second is perfect. You know, waiting for the right moment. He's let the play go forward. Here's the space that he can attack into. And the cross is simply sublime. The dink onto Harry Maguire's head to give Manchester United a win. And if the scenes were big with the 4-4, the scene to 5-4, people falling over the seats, people hugging, it just went absolutely crazy. What a moment in Old Trafford. One of the greatest comebacks Man United have ever seen. To come from 4 goals to 2 down in the second half extra time is brilliant. And Harry Maguire deserves so much credit for that header. But again, Amorim's changes, super. Manchester United are in the semi-finals of the Europa League. This, for me, is the most important run in this competition in the history of the football club. This is so vitally important. Why is it important for Manchester United? Well, number one, if they get into the Champions League, the transfer targets they can look for in the summer are completely different. You're looking at one calibre of player. If they don't get into the Champions League, you're looking at a completely different calibre of footballer. Manchester United need to up their levels of performance. Collectively, they need to be better. But I think for the back end of the Premier League, it is all about introducing young players into the starting 11. For me, I'd like to see 11 academy players play at the weekend. I think the Premier League now, it's done and dusted. United aren't going to get relegated. They're not going to win the league. So they may as well play the kids. Allow the Manchester United players that played 120 minutes to have a break at the weekend. It's vitally important. If United can get there, get into the Champions League, that means next season under Ruben Amorim will work. That's how important it is, I do believe. If United don't win the Europa League, it's going to be a really, really difficult summer. You're thinking a lot of players have got to go out, a lot of players have got to come in. That only happens if Man United get to the Champions League. It's so, so important. I can't stress how much it is. But I'll tell you what, one of the greatest days out ever. The performance was brilliant in the first half, was pretty rubbish in the second half, but it's a comeback at the end. It's classic United. But anyway, guys, what did you make of the game? Let me know in the comments below. I've been Statman Dave, and I probably need to go and take a lie down. See you later.
Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, why not check out some more content on the Statman Dave YouTube channel?